innovation relies on momentum, and that's why we're going even further to support Ontario's innovators.
This is a critical time to ensure that innovation continues to play a very important part to ensure that Ontario becomes a global leader in economic growth.
Science and innovation are a powerful means to overcome our challenges, create new opportunities, and do good for each other.
Their cutting-edge products and services are attracting attention around the world. And more importantly, these collaborations are creating new jobs, generating investment, and strengthening Ontario's economy.
It's quite clear from what I see in front of me that entrepreneurship and innovation continues to be very alive and well.
We now have 19 people that we hired over the past year. The people that we are hiring are all knowledge-based jobs. So we are really creating a high-value job, not only the job itself. So there's two parts to it.
They built a very technologically challenging product and built it in such a way that anybody could use it. From the Colombian drug busts to helping the troops out in Afghanistan.
The My Voice communication aid is a product for people with profound speech and language disabilities. There are millions of people in North America that have a range of disabilities that lead them to be partly or completely unable to speak. And so My Voice is an app that runs on iOS and Android devices that's a better communication aid than those that have previously existed.
I can have my idea, and nobody else seems to think that way, but it's okay for me.
In order for research to be valuable, people need to make informed decisions every moment of our lives.
What makes this so innovative is really how few materials it uses, allowing it to be very low cost.
It's all about innovation.
Welcome to the Ontario Centres of Excellence webinar on connecting talent and jobs in the energy industry. My name is Yvette Vera-Perez, Business Development Manager with OCE, and I'm very glad you have been able to join us today. We have students from across Ontario, Canada, and the world, so welcome to you all. The Ontario Centres of Excellence is a big supporter of students gaining experience in the commercial sector. We see special importance in early interaction between students and industry companies. And this discussion is especially important in the energy sector. Why is that? Well, we see that energy companies in the most advanced economies, including Canada, are facing labor challenges. New workers are not entering the workforce as fast as veterans, particularly engineers, are retiring. And the need for digitally savvy technical hires is especially pronounced, as energy companies and utilities need to hire additional workers for information technology intensive roles. We're pleased to have today experts who will speak to you about the challenges and opportunities in the evolving energy sectors. Which are the job opportunities out there? What skills are there required for you to hone? And what sort of talent are they looking for to stay competitive in their businesses? Presenting today we have Nicole Hynum, Strategy Manager for Conservation and Hiring Manager for the Conservation Co-op Program at Ontario Power Authority. Brad Marx, Regional Director for Canada at GE Digital Energy. Bruce Orlov, Smart Grid Leader for IBM Canada. And Michael Tingle, Director of Corporate Business Development at ORTECH Technology, and Community Chair at LinkedIn Group Linked Energy. Based on the numbers of you registered for the webinar, we felt it was important to have enough time for Q&A. So we will be taking your questions by text, and on your behalf, I will be asking the questions to the presenters later on. If you're attending the webinar as a group or a class, please send us a note saying how many of you are viewing us at this time. So again, thanks for joining us today. And our first guest is going to be Nicole Hynum with the OPA. The Ontario Power Authority has a very important role in Ontario's electricity sector. It is the OPA that coordinates province-wide conservation efforts and is responsible for planning the electricity grid for the long term. I'd like now to welcome Nicole.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time today. I'm pleased to be here to talk to you not only about the OPA and what we do, but also what we do in conservation and the opportunities for new grads as well as co-op interns. My role in the company is I work directly for the Vice President of Conservation, and I have exposure to the entire conservation portfolio, and I also manage the student co-ops that we bring through every term. Our mission at the OPA is to ensure we have a reliable, cost-effective, sustainable electricity supply for Ontario, and we do that through three main groups. We have a power system planning group that looks at the long-term outcome of electricity supply to ensure that we can meet system needs. We also have an electricity resources group, and they procure resources such as our renewables, as well as nuclear and generation, other generation forms. And then, of course, we have conservation, which is what I'll talk to you most about today. All of these different groups have support in co-op and recent grad needs through engineering opportunities, contract management opportunities, planning opportunities, economic analysis, and program design. So it's really a full suite and gamut of opportunities for recent grads and co-ops. Right now, conservation is in the middle of a long-term energy planning framework that goes out to 2030. And this slide represents the main milestones that we are trying to achieve to get to those targets. So you can see that by 2030, we're trying to reduce demand by 7,100 megawatts and reach an energy savings goal of 28 terawatt hours. This is very aggressive. We are a leader in the world when it comes to electricity conservation. And if we do reach this, it will be the equivalent of powering 1 in 5 homes in Ontario. So it's pretty substantial and aggressive. So we're right now at the end of a 4-year frame, or nearing the midterm of a 4-year framework with electric utilities, and we're trying to attain 1,330 megawatt hours of peak demand reduction and 6,000 gigawatt hours. And so we're well on our way to reaching that, and that will go towards these long-term energy planning targets. Right now, the government is actually looking at the long-term planning targets to see if we're on track, and they've been out stakeholdering with customers, electric utilities, businesses across the province, and looking at not only conservation but also other forms of generation to see if our supply is adequate. And the government recently released a paper called Conservation First. And the reason that Conservation First, many of these are listed on the slide, not only is it cheaper than most forms of generation, it's very cost effective, about 3 cents a kilowatt hour. This is very good. But it also helps regular Ontarians manage your energy costs. It provides a favorable return on investment, and it reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, it creates jobs. So there are jobs in energy management for the commercial sector and industrial sector. There's also jobs doing evaluations of programs, as well as auditing. that we provide through our programs. And there's also a great benefit from a regional perspective. Some of the areas like Toronto are constrained right now with respect to electricity, and conservation fills a nice need for helping these constrained areas meet their system needs. Conservation continues to remain cost effective, this 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour. So since 2006, we've invested about $2 billion in conservation programs and measures, and that has actually resulted in a $4 billion benefit in avoided system capital needs and operating costs. So it's a really good value, not only for the system, but for ratepayers, so people paying in for the programs that we deliver. And we anticipate that the program costs will remain at 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour through the remainder of this 2014 framework. I'll just quickly touch on the suite of programs that we offer. We have a group of programs that address energy efficiency. So this would be retrofitting your light fixtures, refrigeration systems, any system improvements and upgrades. And we also have a suite of demand response programs. So this would be when we're reaching critical system peak in the summer, programs that pay customers to reduce their load by shutting down lights or other operations for a small period of time so that we can not have to buy additional power from different places. Right now, our suite of programs also reaches all sectors. So regular consumers, commercial and institutional customers, industrial sector customers, low income, and we just recently launched an Aboriginal conservation program. So really we have programs for all customers, and they offer incentives. And we'll likely transition away from incentive-based programs going forward, but that is the current suite through 2014. The next slide demonstrates some of our program's successes to date, and I'll just touch on two that are exciting and innovative. The first is our HVAC program, and you can see on the slide we've retired replaced about 800,000 HVAC units across the province since the program's inception. This is really good, and we're transforming the marketplace. So basically, it would be very hard for a customer to find a non-efficient HVAC anywhere in the province because we've engaged our channel partners, so the heating and cooling installers, and so they're helping us to push this program. And we've seen this strategy work very well. And the other thing that I would highlight that I believe dovetails into some of the later presentations is our Peak Saver Plus program. And this is using an in-home display to help customers in the residential sector better understand their energy use. And this is going to become more important as our program suites evolve and we transition away from incentives and more to customer-based information. And you can see that right now we have about 34,000 IHDs deployed in the province, but we anticipate that this will grow quite a bit before the end of 2014. So the future of conservation is really, we're not sure what it's going to look like. As I mentioned, the government is currently revisiting what the future will hold beyond 2014. But we do know that there's a few principles that will be adhered to, providing customers greater information, tools like benchmarking for the commercial sector so they can better understand their energy load. A lot of innovation, and we do that right now, foster that through our conservation fund, so we anticipate that will continue. And then an emphasis on carbon reduction. The other thing that you'll see on the slide is jobs. We know that this will continue to create a lot of jobs for the province. So that's exciting and likely not going to slow down anytime soon. And I'll just close by talking about some of the opportunities that we have in the conservation division for co-ops. Right now, we bring in co-ops regularly every term. So we have a few positions, and they support various functions in our conservation group. So it could be relating to program evaluation, it could be providing engineering support, you could be running economic analyses through our program design work to help in partnership with our electric utilities. And then we also have opportunities in business development for interacting with our customers and partners. And I know that the other groups at the OPA ER, so our electricity resources group and power system planning, also take in regularly co-ops. And to find out more about co-op opportunities, I would refer you to our HR group, but I can, if you're interested, I can, my email will be provided, so I can connect you that way. We're in the middle of a term right now, so it wouldn't be until the next term, but we are always interested in bringing in the next talented batch of students. So thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.
Thank you, Nicole. Nicole is unable to remain with us for the Q&A session, but if you have a question specifically for her, please write down your email and she will reply to you. Now we are going to hear from our next speaker, Brad Marx, Regional Director for Canada at GE Digital Energy. GE Digital Energy is a division of GE, and it is a major solutions provider and leader in the effort to modernize and optimize how we generate, move, and consume energy. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you, Yvette. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. As Yvette mentioned, my name is Brad Marx, and I have the responsibility of leading the smart grid effort for General Electric in Canada. My overall business essentially comprises of the electric utilities, transmission and distribution grids, and of course that includes the smart grid that surrounds that. I want to talk today a little bit about a few things. I've got 3 slides, and I'm going to be addressing the overall market opportunity, which I think you all would be very interested in understanding where this market is going and how large it's growing. At the same time, get into some of the technologies and priorities of which the whole entire supply chain within the smart grid and utility infrastructure are looking towards. And then just kind of finish it off by talking about some specific opportunities within the sector that might cater to your overall expertise. So on the first slide there, overall you'll take a look at this overall market by 2030. Roughly almost $300 billion in anticipated spend will take place. I've broken out, you can see, by generation, transmission, and distribution. So again, there's significant spend across Canada as it relates to really identifying areas of growth within the business. Some of the drivers behind that, we're finding that, of course, the overall grid in Canada is roughly 30 to 40 years old, and certainly at a time where we need to start considering upgrading older, aging infrastructure. The initiative that you'll see across Canada with a lot of the long-term energy plans are the retirement of coal. So the need to look to new renewable technologies and more renewable energies that, again, will make up the coal gap as it becomes retiring over the next 10 to 15 years. Certainly, we're seeing a lot of increase in demand that's taxing the grid today, both in a demographics perspective, population growth. We're seeing a lot of industrial growth, especially in Alberta and Saskatchewan, with both the oil sands and in the mining areas. And then lastly, a lot of the new renewables in terms of specifically wind that's coming onto the grid. Again, taxing the existing infrastructure, and again, the reason for a lot of that additional spend over the next 10 to 20 years. As Yvette also alluded to earlier on in her introduction, is that we are seeing a large percentage of workers in the utility sector, both, again, for the utilities and also manufacturers and the entire supply chain, are retiring. And they take with them 30 to 40 years of experience, and that's very difficult to replace. So we're seeing that again across all the major utilities, and we're all struggling, as well as the private sectors like GE, in finding the right talent for the right functions. A couple, some numbers there with the smart grid investments. This information, when I attended last week's Smart Grid Conference in Toronto, NRCan had presented it and brought some very interesting facts and numbers that they were able to compile over the last several years. That we're seeing, smart grid investment in Canada reach almost $1 billion by the end of 2013, where we're looking at about almost $400 million of smart grid funded projects by the government alone. So again, definitely a unique scenario right now that we're seeing in the Canadian utility space. And just to reinforce the messaging regarding some of the renewable drivers behind the growth is the wind projects that are coming to fruition. And again, we're looking at tripling, if not quadrupling, capacity in wind, again, over the next 3 to 4 years. So some significant opportunities within the renewable space. In terms of the top ranked priorities, I should say, and this was something that NRCan had alluded to in the presentation, but certainly I think from a GE perspective, we see things that are very similar. We take a look at AMI, which is the advanced metering infrastructure that goes along with your smart meters and the smart grid, as a lot of people define that. We see, again, a lot of growth in renewables, demand response, which allows consumers to become more cost-effective in the way they utilize their electricity. Wind, again, as I mentioned, distributed energy resources of all sorts, whether it's nuclear, hydro, again, biomass, a lot of the other different renewable technologies. Certainly grid intelligence, the ability to implement more automation and intelligence and monitoring management into the existing grid. And certainly cybersecurity for those folks on the line that are involved in the security space. We're seeing a lot of demand and a lot of awareness as the grid becomes more intelligent and we provide more communication and bidirectional data. The need to have security is definitely critical, so that's definitely an area of opportunity. And last but not least is energy storage in all its forms, whether it's electrical vehicle, battery, and the ways to capture and harness more electricity as we move forward to help manage the overall grid. Lastly, on the last slide there regarding opportunities, I think what probably most important to everybody on the phone is again, we're seeing a lot of opportunity in engineering, design, and research and development. Again, not just from a public sector perspective, but also from a private perspective. Again, in most of the utilities that I speak with, including General Electric, from a private perspective, we're always looking for strong engineering and design people who can come in there to take a look at the next product roadmaps in the future, and also at the same time help designing grid requirements for tomorrow. Project management and planning, again, very critical. We're seeing, again, a lot of that expertise in very slim resources today. Many of the utilities, again, due to a lot of retirement and some constraints with budget, are looking to outsource much of their management, planning, and project management. And I think that bodes very well for GE, but also for yourselves as new engineers. Product management and marketing, for those folks who are more inclined to take a look at a commercial approach, you're definitely going to want to take a look at the product marketing side of things, where again, there'll be product innovation and product roadmaps, but also involved in the strategy and business development of new technologies that again, might be indeed part and parcel of tomorrow's grid. And last but not least, for those individuals who are interested more in a business development or a sales career, and that's my forte at GE, there definitely is always opportunity for young, aggressive people who know technology, who want to build a career in sales, and that's something, again, GE looks to on a continuous basis. So, again, I applaud you for your interest, and again, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you over the next 10, 15 years, and I would probably say from a GE perspective, we have a great website, we have a lot of student programs, we've got internships, we've got leadership programs for graduating students, so I'd recommend that you check out our website. Just go to www.ge.com, go to the careers section to learn a little bit more. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Brad. Our third guest today is Bruce Orlov, a smart grid leader for IBM Canada. IBM Smart Grid helps utilities add a layer of digital intelligence to the grid, and Bruce is joining us today from Ottawa. Welcome, Bruce.
Okay, thank you. Hope you can hear me all right. What I wanted to talk about was more from a data perspective. There's, this industry, the energy utility industry, is going through a tremendous transformation and evolution, and a lot of it is more than just technology. Brad talked a lot about technology from a General Electric perspective, which is very true, and I'll take it from perhaps a different perspective. Perhaps you can just move to the next slide. I just have the one slide, and just to focus on a few areas that I feel are good opportunities in this industry. So as I mentioned, first one and the biggest one, it's data management. So there's a tremendous amount of data that's being collected through our modernized electricity grids, and that is offering a tremendous opportunity for advanced analytics. So we're becoming a much more data-intensive industry. becoming more like a telecommunications network. Again, as Yvette mentioned in the beginning, it's a lot more IT and ICT, so information and communications technology. So telecom, banking, insurance, these are data-intensive industries, and so is our industry becoming as well. It's no longer just about poles and wires and transformers. Sure, that's a critical part of it, but and those are advancing as well. But they're also providing us with that data that we now have to do stuff with. Brad, I think, and maybe Yvette also mentioned about aging workforce. So as people retire, that information is going with them. So we're trying. We need to find ways to be able to harness that information, and the ways to do that is through this data management. I think a couple things to be quite conscious about is that as we put in new technology into our electricity grids, there's also an impact on both the organizations that are the utilities, there's impact on the customers, and that all has to be understood. And we are helping utilities do that through the business process and change management. So there's a lot of new skills that are required in this industry that weren't required maybe 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. We're seeing a lot more from a system integration perspective. There's a lot more from a change management, as mentioned. So from a consulting, helping utilities to change the way they've been doing their business, helping utilities and other industry players to better understand what they can do with the data that they're now collecting that they've never had before, and they never really knew how to before. So leveraging other industries. So now there's a sort of a really big need for business analysts. So there's a lot more on the business focus, doing predictive modeling. So it's quite a different type of a technical expertise that is required over and above the traditional skills that are still needed. There's a tremendous amount of research that's going on in both the smart grid and smart metering. So I see smart metering as being one of the enabling platforms or focuses for smart grid. So now that we have all this data, what can we do with the data? How can we leverage it so utilities can improve operations, so that customers can better manage their electricity consumption? As we're talking about from an OPA perspective, conservation is key. So how do we drive that? So new skills are needed to be able to bring that to bear. There's research going on around the world on weather forecasting to help on the integration of renewables. I mean, even here in Ontario, especially here in Ontario, we're one of the leaders. So we're quite fortunate to be a leader in this area, and hence there's opportunities for new grads, co-ops, whatnot, to get into this sort of from the ground up and build a career in a new and exciting environment. There's projects going on in Ontario and across Canada and globally that IBM and other system integrators are involved with that we weren't involved with in the past. A lot more in helping, such as with Hydro One and integration of large distribution management systems and power systems. So making sure that the data and all the systems are able to talk to each other. We're actually working closely with GE on that and some other partners. And I think what's also very important is there's a lot more focus now on the customer. So all of a sudden, this industry is becoming one that has to focus on those who consume energy, those who are becoming more of a stalwarts, and people want to know how they're able to use their energy better, how they're able to consume electricity better, conserve. New products and services are starting to be offered to the consumer. So it's a new focus. The new focus requires new skills and new ideas. And with the advent of social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or whatnot, these things are stuff that are becoming and will be becoming part of the day-to-day life of a utility. And I think that's really a great opportunity for people coming out of universities or colleges today who understand that and live with that on a day-to-day basis to bring those ideas, that mindset into sort of an older type of a conservative nature of utilities, and no disrespect to any of the utilities out there, but it is transformation, and we need people who can help drive some of that transformation. I mean, physics, we're not going to change physics, so that's always going to remain the same, and we need strong power engineers and designers and the likes to continue on that good work, but also there's new opportunities. So it's becoming much more exciting, and there's a tremendous amount of jobs out there in this field. So I think that from that perspective, looking at the new paradigm in the utility industry, focusing on the data, as I mentioned, looking at analytics, it's huge, cloud computing, all different kinds of IT infrastructure that we're leveraging from other industries, bringing it into the utility industry. So those were sort of a few of the remarks I wanted to make. And then, as I mentioned, consulting is key at IBM. It's key with a lot of folks now. We have a number of programs that support new graduates. One of them is called Consulting by Degrees, that helps new grads who come into IBM to really get a head start with some of this and get engaged in a lot of the projects that are going on with our various clients. So great opportunities to learn, to gain experience, to bring new ideas, and I think at that I'm going to pass it back, and I'm happy to take any questions throughout the next 20 or 25 minutes of this webinar. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Our final guest today is Michael Tingle, Director of Corporate Business Development at ORTECH Consulting and Community Chair at LinkedIn Group Linked Energy. ORTECH Power, a division of ORTECH Consulting, specializes in renewable energy due diligence and investments, and Linked Energy is one of LinkedIn's largest and most active group with close to 200,000 members. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Yvette. First, I just wanted to start by thanking the Ontario Centre of Excellence for putting this on. Peter and Yvette, you guys should see this. This is top-notch. It looks like a TV station here. This is a really important topic, and when I got first asked to talk on where the energy industry's gone, I asked how many minutes I was going to have, and they said 5, and I said, gee, I might have some time left over. But what I was going to do was flip the question and talk like I'm talking to a university student that I know. So if I was giving advice to an engineer or someone in university that's looking to get into the energy industry, where would they go? I mean, that's really important. So the first, in my slide, I have energy efficiency. This is a key to all government policies, is to use less energy. Municipalities, hospitals, school boards, industry companies, all these types of organizations are going to want to use less energy because it costs less. So if you want to be an energy manager, if you want to work for a municipality as an engineer in their energy management department, or work for government, like the OPA, these are excellent areas for you to get into. So I would say conservation, energy management, and energy managers would be the perfect place to go. Now the second thing is renewable energy. Now the OPA has, of course, or the Ontario government and the OPA have really put Ontario on the map in terms of renewable energy. But as a student in first year, second year, or third year, or fourth year, you really need to look at the life cycle of where these projects are. So we're doing a lot of development right now, but over the course of the next 20 years, we're going to see a lot of these projects going to be built, and they're going to need to be maintained and upgraded or what have you. So think about operation and maintenance as one area. Of course, there's always going to be development, and that is something that's an opportunity. Smart grid. Every LDC, local distribution company in Ontario, is looking at smart grid and have implemented or are going to implement it. So again, it's a really big area for a niche area within an LDC. Brings me back to transmission. Our transmission grid is going to constantly need to be upgraded, and there's going to need to be expansion, and new technologies are going to come in, especially with things like the smart grid, renewable energy, and energy storage. So that's another area. Energy storage, of course, if you're an entrepreneur at heart, this might be an area that you want to get into. You're probably going to look at, the government doesn't have clear policy on it yet, but I can tell you they're talking about it, and it makes sense for them to figure out how we can store energy when we don't need it. So you might want to work for a company like Temple Power that does Flywheel, or work for an energy developer like EnerStore that actually builds these projects and develops them. So vendors, or even an LDC that has an energy storage program. Now the final one I have in is finance, and this is a little bit of a twist, is all these projects need money. They need capital for development, and they need debt. So why not go ahead and get an MBA and go work for, say, a Manulife or an insurance company that provides debt to these projects. And a lot of the times they'll hire engineers to do this work, And wouldn't it be amazing if you were actually in there and able to vet the projects more efficiently? So that's just one from some of our guys. ORTECH always describes ourselves as engineers that speak finance, and the market really resonates with that topic. Of course, we do a lot of nuclear and a lot of natural gas, so those are typical areas that you probably would want to go into. Now, the second part of this was, what does the industry want? Now, we're hiring right now, and I get tons of resumes. You got to start thinking like the hiring manager. I get 1,000 resumes, and everyone says, I'm enthusiastic, I'll work hard. Well, you're not differentiating yourself. So what industry really wants is an engineering student or a student in general that can think on their feet, that can learn quickly, and can take direction. I'm sure your profs are teaching you how to think, but you don't have experience that you're going to learn on the job. And if you can differentiate yourself with other university students or candidates, because you're not just looking at your classmates, you're thinking about all those people that are coming across, immigrating to Canada, or not retiring or looking for a second career. So you need to differentiate. And the last thing I'm going to say on this is remember the social. A lot of the engineers are being pulled into the development process or pulling into the stakeholder consultation or having to sell the ideas to a mayor or to a politician or to an equity investor. So concentrate on, hey, in university I did this, I organized this rally, or I did this presentation that proved this point, and add that to your resume. So that is where I think energy is going and what we're looking for. The second slide is LinkedIn, which is a bit of an addiction to me. I do run one of the largest energy groups on LinkedIn, and I'll give it a little shout out, Linked Energy. But what I find is that people don't treat LinkedIn the way they should. It's it's Facebook for professionals. So let's just start with the picture you have. If I have a picture of myself with a lampshade on and I'm with my buddies, probably not good for LinkedIn. You probably want to think passport photo, but you're allowed to smile. Be creative. Use black and white. Use a close-up. Use something professional that will make you stand out. Now, with that premise, I'm not going to go through your entire profile, but take that idea of professionalism and then go through the rest of your profile. LinkedIn has got tools. It'll help you fill out everything. Volunteering now, you can talk about projects, put up videos, do all those sort of things that set you apart from all the other candidates that are out there. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is recruiters. Recruiters are the lifeblood. All the good jobs that are out there, they're not posted on Workopolis. They're found on LinkedIn. So you want to start making friends with recruiters. And I have tactics for doing that, but just search by keyword and start connecting with them. Now, the third concept, because I don't have a lot of time, and this is kind of an interesting thing, find somebody in LinkedIn that's in your area geographically that is 20 years ahead of you in their career, where you want to be in 20 years, and start reaching out to them. Go on the groups that they're on. Respond to posts that they've made. Reply directly to them. And one of the things I like to say is, I learned this in university. Does it still apply in your industry? Or is this something you're putting into practice? And that's an intelligent question. And those people that have 20 years, like myself and Brad, will actually answer those questions. The last thing you want to do is say, I'm looking for an opportunity, or can I have an informational interview? That's what everyone else does. You need to differentiate yourself. I guess the final takeaway is I've got a white paper on the LinkedIn stuff that I actually wrote for this webinar, and I'll just throw it out there. The first student on this webinar that connects with me on LinkedIn, I'll critique your LinkedIn profile and ask and give you some tips on how you can find a job. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. We will now open the Q&A session. And the first question is, do any of your companies participate in on-campus recruiting events?
ORTECH doesn't. We don't need to.
Okay.
Because we have so many resumes that come in. It's unbelievable.
GE does. So globally, we are generally doing recruitment on campus programs throughout the year, certainly towards graduation, but definitely look out for GE. I can't guarantee that be all your schools, but it does do it in a large way, yes.
Bruce, you want to say something?
Does it as well. They do a lot of on-campus recruiting as well. Yeah.
Okay, so then the next question is actually for Bruce. It's Derry Abraham is asking, Bruce, how can graduates bridge the gap between IT knowledge and the energy systems knowledge effectively in order to have access to these smart grid technologies? Usually these knowledge spheres are completely isolated.
That's a good question. I mean, getting experience in smart grid or just utility is challenging. I mean, you need to work within a utility environment typically. However, you can do a lot of research. There's a lot of information now available online in terms of white papers, so you can understand the way the systems work. It's very much out there. So there's a lot of information there. And then, again, it's just understanding that it's not rocket science. So you can be able to understand the concepts and then take other aspects of your IT or other background and apply it to that to think how you could be innovative in terms of leveraging this kind of technology. So I'm not sure if I answered the question directly, but there's a lot of information out there just to be able to understand, and it doesn't take long once you're out in the industry to be able to apply the knowledge.
The next question is for Michael. Pritam Shreksta asked, apart from new graduates, are there opportunities for experienced engineering professionals arriving as immigrants in Canada?
Absolutely. I think we've been approached by a number of agencies that will bring in an electrical engineer or what have you, whatever their designation is in their home country, and we would definitely look at that and hire those people. Absolutely.
Thank you. This question now is for Brad. Derry Abraham asked, Brad, how does GE offer learning schemes within the 4 opportunity areas to new graduates to keep them fit for the evolving industry?
That's a good question there. GE's, again, through our internship programs, we typically take a look at the different functions within GE. Some of it's commercial, some of it's technical, operational, finance. So depending upon your discipline, we go through a relatively regimented 2.5-year program for those selected individuals. And they're exposed to all aspects of the organization within GE. And it's a program that ultimately will culminate in the hiree's decision to pursue a particular function. So, meaning if you start in the commercial program, there's a technical aspect, there's a business development, there's marketing, there's operational, business strategy. And at the end of the 2.5 years, it will be really up to the student in terms of where they'd like to pursue that career option. And then from that perspective, they'd be hired into that particular field under a manager and start their career that way. Not to mention the continuous training that's offered throughout their career at GE.
Thank you, Brad. This question is for all the presenters. Parker says, studying environmental studies at U of T, is it possible for me to engage in sustainable building design or renewable energy industries in the future?
I would say yes. Anything, all the infrastructure that's going to be built, regardless if it's power, transportation, bridges, are always going to need environmental assessments, public engagement. So I would definitely say that that is never going to go away, and it's the way the government makes sure that the people of Ontario agree with what they're doing and that it's not hurting the environment. So I would definitely say that's a yes.
Thanks, Michael. So this question is for Bruce now. Is smart grid development complete? I think it might be actually for Brad. Is smart grid development completed at GE? If not, what stage are we in, and how are we doing in smart grid? Yeah.
Good question. I think when you take a look at the definition of smart grid, I think you'll find that there's many definitions of smart grid. I think if you had asked a utility person in the past 20 or 30 years, they would say really nothing has, it's always been smart. There's always been some level of automation and intelligence in our grid. But I think to the point, is it developed out? Is it built out? Absolutely not. It's really in its infancy right now, looking at a lot of new digital technologies that are allowing the intelligence to be built into the grid to allow it to operate more resiliently, more effectively, more efficiently, and the ability to report and monitor and manage information from the field and bring it into some kind of centralized system where, again, there could be actions taken upon that. So whether it's GE or the other major manufacturers, including IBM, it's still very early stages, always looking to new technologies that are going to make, again, the grid more efficient.
Thanks, Brad. Bruce, this question is for you. By customer engagement, do you mean public participation and acceptance of renewables, or more on the marketing side?
So in fact, I mean both. It is customer engagement, to be able to educate and engage the customer to understand the impact of renewables and the whole smart grid, but also it's really to do what we might call customer segmentation, to understand the various customers that are out there. It's not just all one ratepayer, to be able to offer products and services geared towards different parts of the population. So it's really on both sides.
Thanks, Bruce. The next question is for Michael. Michael, the question it's by Raju Halve, and it says, are any jobs out there for graduates who have knowledge in the hospitality industry with reduction of energy demand?
Yes, a lot of the major hotel chains are actually actively engaging in energy management and energy conservation, retrofits, energy reporting, and reducing emissions because it makes them more money and it reduces their costs. So it's really important that they do that. And they have so many facilities, it's very difficult for them to keep a handle on it. So they have to organize and really concentrate on keeping what they use and how they use it down.
What I would say, Yvette, if I could just add to that, I think Michael's dead on, and it doesn't have to be hospitality per se, right? We're looking at just building energy management, right? Whether it's hospitality or any building, the ability to become more efficient, again, environmentally more friendly, really facilitates itself across all the different applications. So again, if you're looking into energy efficiency within buildings and design thereof, so you want to take a look at the LEED programs, LEED. The LED programs are really part and parcel of making buildings clean and structurally, ergonomically, architecturally, electrically, mechanically, every single system that you can think of in a building. The environmental aspect is certainly playing a much larger role in the decision and investment in new buildings.
Yeah,
Thanks. The next question would be for Brad and Bruce. It's Ayman Saba asked, hi all, thanks for this interesting webinar. I am currently on my 3rd year of PhD, and I am focusing in developing a new algorithm that introduces cognitive radio technology to the smart grid as an innovative solution that provides smart grid with its need of spectrum bands. I am wondering if this topic is of interest to you, and if there is any possibility of getting involved with you, either through an internship or collaboration, or even checking what you are looking for so that I can modify my research based on market needs.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce, I'll take this and hand over to you. What I would say is yes. The answer is yes. I think when you look at new smart grid technologies in your particular area, we're talking about communication, which of course is a backbone of moving data across the whole utility. GE, again, is always exploring new technologies, whether we develop that in-house or we look outside to bring that technology in. We are very aggressive in acquisition of companies and new intellectual properties that we feel are going to help GE and the industry as a whole. So the answer would be yes. I think particularly speaking to your research, my email will be left at the end of that. And again, if you want to reach out to me, I certainly can bring that up within GE. But again, this would be something global that we'd have to explore. But again, I certainly would do at least that.
So, and to add to that, of course, from an IBM perspective, we do a lot of research. And in fact, we established a research consortium last year with about 7 universities in Ontario. I'm not sure which university they are aligned with for the PhD, but we work jointly with universities to develop initiatives such as the one that was described, whether it's that one or something different. So it's actually best to go to the professor and say, hey, you know, I understand IBM is involved with a lot of research initiatives. Is it possible to bring it to their attention? And of course, you can do that. You can, as Brad mentioned, my email will be given out, so you could send me information on that, and I can pass it through to our research area. If it's Ontario based, if it's North America or somewhere else, it'd be a different group. So, but there's always opportunities to explore and to advance some of these ideas.
Thank you, Bruce. We have a couple more questions. This question is for Michael or anyone who can answer it. It's Andrew Davidson, and he has asked, can you give advice for an experienced former electrician looking to refocus into a less manual labor-intensive career? Is engineering school the best way to go, or can my existing skills be retrained without a bachelor degree?
I would say the solar industry is looking for good electricians. Part of the OPA process is to do something called an Exhibit G, which is sort of the last thing you do before you turn the switch on say a rooftop solar or ground mount solar. And there's a lot of electrical work that needs to be done that you don't need an electrical engineer to do. An electrician can do. So we're seeing a lot of shifting from traditional electrical work to the solar industry. So I would say check out CANSIA, that's the Canadian Association of Solar Industry, no, the Canadian Solar Industries Association, sorry, and start looking at the developers and or consultants like ORTECH.
Yeah, my comment, Andrew, would be looking that you've got the electrical licensing obviously under your belt, and you don't want to wear a belt or a tool belt or hard hat anymore. As I mentioned in my presentation, there are a lot of opportunity in project management, where again your expertise and experience can be brought to the table to help manage younger electricians or even project managers that are involved with some of the large infrastructure build-outs. So I would definitely say yes. If you're looking at this from a utility perspective only, I would say absolutely. I think any major utility in Canada at this point, I'd probably even suffice to say probably anywhere in the world, are always looking for experienced electricians with hands-on who can actually manage projects from implementation to maintaining and through that whole entire supply chain. So I would definitely say yes, and I don't believe you need to go back to school for a bachelor. I think, again, with your background and knowing that there's a huge gap today in the industry regarding project managers, that's something I would pursue directly with the utilities. And by the way, companies like Michael's company, ORTECH, and the consulting engineers, again, contractors, shortage of project managers all the time. So again, I would say that'd be a great route for you potentially, where again, you don't want to, again, spend all your time in minus 40 degrees Celsius. I've been there.
Thank you, Brad. So the last question I have here is, what is the role of a person who has a PhD diploma in the energy industry, and are there jobs opportunities for a graduate of a PhD degree?
That's a little. I need more on that one.
Yeah,
that's kind of like boil the ocean kind of question, and I don't. I would say in energy storage, absolutely, because you need people to have forward thinking and people that can do that kind of advanced calculations and see the solution, before they have it written down. So I'd say conceptually, that's maybe where he could work in the energy storage, or in the advanced smart grid area.
Yeah, I think PhD. If I kind of read between the lines, if a PhD is something you're pursuing and with the intent of going into more of a research type of capacity, right, as opposed to commercial or something along that line. But if it's research that you're headed towards with the PhD, definitely, I think both public and private sector within the smart grid space, regardless of the technologies, again, whether it's again demand response, whether it's data, whether it's hard technologies within smart grid itself, there's always opportunity for I think R&D in, again, the private and public sector. So I think it's a very broad question you're asking. But again, if research is your angle, the answer is yes. I think it's just finding the right company with the right technology that you want to explore.
And just to add to that, I agree. I mean, it was very broad, but if it's research, or if it's mathematics, right? I mentioned about analytics. That's an area of growth in the utility industry. So a PhD in analytics, will probably find you a lot of opportunities as well.
One last comment I want to say about PhD and research. GE has a global research center in Upper State New York, which again house all the major research and development for GE. So again, it's populated by students and people like you with PhDs. We also have a very large software development center in San Ramon, California, so around Silicon Valley, where again, I think we've just hired about 1,000 PhDs and students alike that are exploring, again, to Bruce's point about the data aspect of the utility business, but also for GE as a whole and how data integrates across all the different businesses. So I would probably say from that perspective, again, companies like GE, like IBM, like the large companies who are playing in the smart grid utility space, always involved with R&D initiatives without question.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks to our speakers, Nicole Heinom of OPA, Brad Marx of GE Digital Energy, Bruce Orlov of IBM Canada, and Michael Tingle of ORTECH Consulting. Before concluding the webinar, I would like to tell you about one of OCE's Entrepreneurship Fellowship programs, the David McFadden Energy Entrepreneur Challenge. The David McFadden Energy Entrepreneur Challenge invites university and college students from Ontario to address challenges facing the energy sector. Each particular challenge is selected, each year a particular challenge is going to be selected, and students can pitch their entrepreneurial solutions. Then the winner will be announced at OCE's Discovery Conference, and he or she will get $25,000 plus a suite of business services to assist you with the business concept that you have. The theme for this year's event is going to be Energy as Enabler, and I invite you to see the web address on the slide for more information. Next year, Discovery is going to be held on May 12th and 13th at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. This is going to be Discovery's 9th annual event, showcasing innovation from all sectors, including energy. So it will be a great opportunity for students to meet face-to-face energy leaders and meet potential employers. We will have programs such as the Career Zone and Ask an Expert. So again, this is a valuable time for you to get in front of leaders in the energy sector. I hope you take advantage of it and hope to see you there. Thanks again to our presenters and participants for attending this webinar on connecting talent and jobs in the energy industry. We hope you have found it helpful. And visit OCE's website regularly for more valuable information on events. And good luck to your careers. Bye.